from the system. And today our guest is Kristen Milefchik, if I pronounce that correctly.
Milefchik, pretty close. Pretty close. Good job.
Well, you write to Michigan. And
Nice to meet you too.
thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me. I was really excited. I saw some of your other guests and I was like, wow, he interviewed Judy Human. Well, that's one of my heroes. So I'm feeling like I made it to the big leagues being on here.
For our first question, would you like to tell us a little bit about your disability?
Sure, yes. I have a condition called spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA. And I was born with it. It's a genetic condition. So it falls under the umbrella of muscular dystrophy or neuromuscular diseases. But it affects my muscles. It makes all of my muscles just significantly weaker than the average person. So I've never walked. I've been a wheelchair user my whole life. And I have to depend on others to help me with my daily needs, like getting out of bed and taking showers and all those sorts of fun things. Um, so yeah, that's a little bit about my disability.
Now, is this progressive like MDA?
It is progressive, but it's a very, very slow progression. My type is. There are different levels of it, different levels of severity. So they've divided that into type 1, type 2, and type 3. Type 1 is the most severe as far as progression goes. And unfortunately, it's one of the biggest genetic killers of infants in the world. But they have made some medical advancements. There's a new drug on the market. I think it was FDA approved in like 2000, I want to say 17, maybe. Don't hold me to that. But it's recent, and they have found that stops the progression in its tracks for the young children. So that was really, really exciting news. But mine is very slow progression. It has progressed. I've lost a lot of ability since I was a teenager. But it's so gradual that it's I guess I'm just used to doing things the way that I do them now. So
Yeah, does the progression make you feel discouraged or depressed sometimes or anything like that?
well, I'm fortunate because I came in contact with other people that have disabilities at a young age through Muscular Dystrophy Association camp, MDA camp. So in my teenage years, getting to meet other people like me and other people that had other types of disabilities, some more significant than mine, some less significant than mine, in the way that they affected us, it gave me like such a perspective, such a wider perspective about my disability that um, I get discouraged more about the way society views disability than the actual limits of my disability, if that makes sense. I think that things could be a lot easier for me and other people like me if there wasn't such bad stigma or stereotypes about people with disabilities.
Okay, so it bothers you more on a society level than on a personal level. Okay.
Yes. Yes. I feel a lot of times that the world just wasn't built for people like you and I. But when we try to use concepts of universal design, make things accessible for everyone, it benefits everyone. It benefits even people that aren't in wheelchairs benefit from ramps and elevators and curb cuts, right? You
Right.
know, I mean, like, how often do you go someplace and you're the only person with a disability in the elevator? There's moms with strollers. There's people that use planes. There's all kinds of other people using those elevators because it's convenient. And so when we think about people that have different access needs, we really help everyone out, not just the people with disabilities. So
Yeah, well, for myself, I pretty much wear my wear it as a badge of honor, to have cerebral palsy. I always had the attitude of I gotta prove the world wrong every day.
absolutely. And yeah, you when you live your whole life with a disability, you learn things that other people don't learn. You learn how to be resourceful, you learn how to be resilient, pragmatic. I mean, there's a whole skill set that comes along with having a disability and making it in life, right?
That's right. According to your story, you had a long journey through school. Could you tell us a little bit about that? And just to
Yeah.
let our viewers know, Kristen was featured on the Michigan United Cerebral Palsy.
What I can tell you is that when I got to be college age and I graduated high school, I was just as eager for my independence as anybody else that age, you know. I wanted to move out, I wanted to be independent, live in a dorm room, have a fun college life. And so I kind of jumped the gun because I did not know about a lot of the disability services that were available. It's a it's a really, really difficult system to navigate if you don't know somebody or know somebody who knows somebody to kind of guide you through it and walk you through it. And so, I went to school, moved on to college campus at Oakland University, and was relying on my friends to help me. And even though that seemed like a great idea uh, at the time, it was a lot of responsibility to put on people that were young my age. They were going through the same part of life that I was with, transitioning. And so it ended up that I had a lot of setbacks along the way, because I just didn't have the supports and services in place that I needed to be successful. And I had my daughter when I was 21 years old. And I decided that I needed to try to go into a field that would be easy to do given my disability. And so I earned a degree online in medical billing and coding because I figured it's computers, I can do computers. But then I wasn't able to get a job. Everybody wanted experience, not just a degree. I put myself into a peer mentoring program so that I could learn about ways to advocate for people with disabilities, which is how I ended up with my first real job, I consider. my first real job as a recipient rights trainer at Community Mental Health in Oakland County, which is now, has a different name now. Oakland Health Network or something like that, Community Health Network. But that is what really got me motivated to learn more about disability rights. When I learned about like the history of the disability rights movement, and about Judy Heumann and Kitty Cone and Justin Dart and all these people that led that movement, it just inspired me. So I went back to school, and I ended up eventually going to Wayne State to get my master's degree in social work. So this was all over, I don't know, the course of 15 years or so that it took me to get to that point where I found my niche, found something I love to do, and I had learned how to navigate the system, learned what supports and services I needed to live independently, and all of that. So yeah, there's a lot. It would take me all day, all week to tell you the whole story, but that's the short version.
How has your life changed since you won Miss Wheelchair in 2015?
Okay. Well, I would just say that I never pictured myself being somebody that would be able to speak in front of crowds prior to Miss Wheelchair Michigan. And it was actually seeing the person who was Miss Wheelchair Michigan the year before I won that title, who spoke at an award ceremony through my UCP. I was at an award ceremony there, and I was receiving an award there for self-determination, Life Without Limits Award. And she spoke, and then after I spoke, when I received my award, she came up to me and started to tell me about Miss Wheelchair Michigan. And I was like, oh no, I can't do that. I'm like, I'm not a pageant girl. That's not my thing. And she said, no, but you're an advocate. And she said, this is all about speaking on behalf of the disability community. And that being a voice for people with disabilities in Michigan, speaking about the issues that are important. And the more I looked into it and more I learned about the history of the program and what the accomplishments of some of the amazing women that have participated in it were, the more I was like, okay, maybe I'll try this. But it was very, very nerve-wracking because the doing the speech part, the biggest part of, I think, the competition is your 2-minute speech when you're on stage and you're in front of the judges and your audience and everything, and you're talking about your platform. So learning how to do that, how to time it, how to be good with your messaging and really get your point across, that has paved the way for me in everything else that I've done ever since. My communication, the way that I communicate with people has really been strongly impacted by that. And also just knowing that there's such a great network of amazing people out there that are just as passionate about this stuff as I am. So, yeah.
What was the competition like? Were there like many contestants or?
No, there wasn't many contestants. There were 3 at the state level the year that I did it. Was it 3-3? Or was it 4? No, I think it was 3. The state level competition and the national level competition are very different, because at the state level, you have to put in an application ahead of time, tell your story, and what your platform is going to be. Use 3 words to describe you as a person, and it's a kind of a long application process, actually. And then out of those applicants, they decide who's going to compete, and actually, we ask questions by judges and do speeches and all of that. And then all the different winners from the different participating states come together to compete at Miss Wheelchair America 1 year later. So, or around a year later.
And you said this occurs in Byron Center, Michigan?
Did what? I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
This takes place here in Byron Center?
Yes, yeah. The state level competition does. And the last couple of years, it's been remote because the COVID risks and people with disabilities tend to be at heightened risk of infection. So, but yes, it does. When it's in person, it takes place there. And actually, the national level, the Miss Wheelchair America pageant, has been in the Grand Rapids area a few times. What is that great big beautiful hotel there? The Grand Plaza, or and Grand Rapids is that big beautiful hotel. Old. That's where they've had it. So
you must be talking like the Amway Grand or something like that.
Yes, yeah. That's the one. Yeah, that's where the Miss Wheelchair America pageant has been a couple of times. So
well,
yeah, you should check it out. Anybody can go. Anybody can go to the Miss Wheelchair America pageant and watch the speeches. So.
Since you work at the Disability Rights of Michigan, access to the vaccine affected the disabled community.
Yes. So I am a vaccine advocate. That's my position at Disability Rights Michigan. So the reason our department exists is because there's been studies that have been done, research that has been done, that shows that people with different types of disabilities, it's not every type of disability, but people with some types of disabilities are at much higher risk of COVID complications if they get infected, and of the infection itself at higher risk. And the least vaccine hesitant of any group of people, but they perceive the greatest challenges to accessing vaccines. And I mean, you can probably imagine people that have communication barriers might have a hard time registering for, a vaccine appointment. People that have transportation barriers, or who have a hard time leaving their home because of transportation challenges. There's many reasons why challenges may exist. It's our job, though, to assist the people who want to be vaccinated with getting them. And we have connections with lots of community resources, mobile units that have contracts with the state to deliver vaccines, even in people's homes if they need them. So our job is just to help people that want to get vaccines, get them, because people with disabilities have the right to have the same access to healthcare, including vaccines, as anybody else. Although I'm sure you're probably aware that the disability community doesn't have equal, equitable access to healthcare in general. So that's the broader issue that we're looking at in doing this work. Even when COVID has gone, which, you know, hopefully we're on our way to right now with the decline that we're seeing in the numbers. But even when it's gone, this work will help us learn about the access challenges for healthcare in general for people with disabilities and what we can do to address that.
Okay. Please tell us about your work with Michigan United Cerebral Palsy.
Okay, well, you mentioned that video that you saw of me talking a little bit about what my UCP has done for me. But because of my utilizing their services, I applied to be on their board of directors, and I'm now a member of their board of directors. I think I've been on the board for a little over 2 years, almost 3 years now. So being on the board, we oversee the strategic planning of the organization. We make sure that we're staying true to the mission and values of the organization, and that the programs and services that we provide are benefiting the people that my UCP serves. And, you know, their whole goal, closing the disability divide, we have to keep that close to everything that we do. The services that they provide has to serve that purpose in some way, shape, or form. So whether it's through providing ramps for kids that need them to get in and out of their house, or the rep payee program, helping people manage their finances, or the benefits counseling, which is the service that I've utilized before, and I'm utilizing it again right now, so that, you know, I can maintain my Medicaid while I'm working and earning money. All of those things do help to close that disability divide. So yeah, that's my involvement with my UCP.
Okay. How does one become a board member? Do you have to be like an active volunteer prior, or what's the criteria?
Well, I knew of the board application because somebody on the board who knew me told me that they were opening applications
Oh,
for the board. And I just put my application in.
okay.
So the application, you know, it asks about your experience and your knowledge of, you know, disability issues and things like that. But my experience was very much a personal experience. You know, living with a disability um, was my experience. So, and they knew of me already at my UCP because of the award that I had received for self-advocacy, Life Without Limits award. So yeah, but I'm sure anybody could apply that wants to when applications are open. I'm not sure if they are right now or not. I'll check the website. But
Okay, so therefore, somebody such as myself that's lived independently for 30 years, I bring that experience to the board as a possible candidate, I guess.
yeah, and I am certainly not the only person that's on the board that has a disability, and some of the members who have cerebral palsy and other types of disabilities. And not all of the members have disabilities either. Some of them have experience because they have family members that have disabilities, or they have worked in social service organizations for a long time. So you've got a diversity of experiences on the board.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. Uh,
Mhm.
what is your best advice for young disabled women?
My best advice is uh, make your own definition of success. I think that being a woman with a disability is tough because there's a social expectation. There's kind of a, I don't want to say capitalistic, but we place a lot of value on how much money a person makes. You know, we measure people's worth, I think, too much in dollar signs, and in our society. And there are lots and lots and lots of ways that people give back to their community. And it's not all about how much money you make, or if you make money at all. There's plenty that people that don't make money still do for their friends and their family and their loved ones. And that there's value in that. There's value in people as human beings, not just the jobs that they have. So I think you've got to define your own idea of what you believe success is, not based on society's expectation. Um, and especially, you know, women have the added stigmas of, you know, not being able to be as productive or successful as men in our society. We still have glass ceilings. We've come a long way, but there's still glass ceilings. So it's very, very important to acknowledge your worth outside of society's expectations.
Okay, okay. Well, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you for having me. I've had a lot of fun talking with you.